I fought for God. Who do you fight for, Exile?
Hello and welcome to another Path of Exile guide. With Harvest League dropping very soon, this is the best time to decide on that perfect starter build. If you're a new player, this choice is really important as it usually makes a difference between enjoying the game or giving up in frustration. And if you're already somewhat experienced, then you likely understand a good start can set the stage for success for the rest of the league. Before going through the builds themselves, I just need to talk a bit about what actually is and makes a good starter build. A league starter is a build whose purpose is to get you as fast as possible to the point where you can farm tier 7 or 8 maps. That is a sweet spot where you start generating a good amount of currency and get decent drops, which should allow you to buy or craft proper gear. A good starter should be able to transition from that point to become an endgame build by acquiring better and more expensive items. Ideally, this should be possible with minimal passive points respecking. Since starting a new league means you have absolutely nothing in your stash, a good starter build should be able to reach that Atlas mid-tier with self-found gear and cheap items. It shouldn't rely on expensive or hard to get unique items, but instead on those which are always in abundance or obtainable using divination cards which can be easily farmed. And just to clarify, while all builds will have some endgame recommended gear that is more expensive, at that point we're no longer talking about a starter build. For example, the Arcmine build does perfectly fine as a starter with self-found rare items, but for endgame a Chevron's wrapping armor is necessary. This does not however mean it needs that item to be an effective starter build. By the point you'll get it, you're no longer in the starter phase. Then a good starter build should be able to run any type of content and most if not all map modes. While boss killing is outside the scope of a league starter, it should however do fairly well in a wide range of scenarios. An ideal starter should also use its main skill early on, so you get plenty of practice and not waste too much time on changing your gem setups. Another key aspect for a league starter is that it shouldn't rely on mechanics, skills or items that are introduced in the upcoming league. Not only would that involve a lot of guesswork, but such elements are always prone to be changed in the first weeks of a new league. In addition to that, a good starter should be easy to play without complicated mechanics or combos and supported by a clear build guide. No matter how great a build is, if you're wasting hours to figure out how to play it or choose the wrong leveling path in the passive tree, your efficiency will drop significantly. Finally, all the builds that I'll showcase have been tested, fine-tuned or designed by myself. They work great as starter builds for a number of leagues now and are proven to be reliable for new players and veterans alike. So now that it's clear what makes a good league starter, here are my recommendations for the next league. First up is the completely reworked Arc Witch build, one of the most beginner-friendly builds out there. In fact, Arc builds have been pretty much synonym with the concept of a league starter, and this one is definitely not an exception. With a fresh guide out and making use of all the latest tools that past leagues brought us, this build is now stronger than ever before. It completely destroyed Delirium content, which was arguably one of the most difficult leagues in recent memory. On top of that, Arc is one of the best clearing skills in the game, depending very little on gear. When leveling, you can pick up any scepter or wand you find and it will work great. With a very intuitive playstyle and absolutely no complex mechanics, it's a beginner's best friend. Fast-paced and amazing at killing large packs of mobs, you'll cruise through story mode and knock the first few Atlas tiers with ease. While it's not an amazing boss killer, that's generally beyond the purpose of a league starter, and it can also get there by investing in some endgame gear after you start amassing some currency. If this sounds like what you're looking for, then check out the full guide by following the link in the pinned comment and video description. My second suggestion for a league starter is the Manly Man Double Strike Champion. A pure melee build if you enjoy going toe to toe with your enemies and smashing their faces up close and personal, this is the right choice for you. While the devs are trying real hard to push people into using two-handed weapons this league, slow ponderous combat is not everyone's cup of tea. Some people want quick, action-packed, fast-paced combat and this is exactly what this build delivers. With incredible mobility, great defenses and very solid damage against both single targets and large packs, the build is an awesome all-rounder capable of easily doing pretty much all existing content. It's also really accessible to newer players as it doesn't need any mandatory unique items apart from a pair of really cheap gloves. It works very well with lower budgets, but there's always room to invest into more expensive gear and get better performance. This makes it ideal for a long-term project and it can transition from a league starter to your main build without wasting anything. Finally, the build has this insane ability to simply melt bosses. If you line up a few buffs and flasks, you'll be able to skip entire phases of some of the hardest boss fights in the game. While this is not a critical perk for a starter build, it does matter if you decide to push it further in the league. You can go to the guide for Double Strike Champion by clicking on that I think in the upper right corner or following the links in the video description and pinned comment. My next recommendation for a league starter is an absolute beast of a summoner, the Skellymancer. This necromancer relies on raising an army of skeletons, along with a few other minions who are there to support them, most notably zombies and specters. What makes this build an amazing league starter is first and foremost its complete gear independence. Almost none of your minions' damage comes from equipment, no strength stacking, no expensive jewels or mandatory uniques which are crucial for the build's performance. As long as your resistances are capped, you're good to go and your skeletons will obliterate everything in their path. Even the best in slot endgame gear costs less than what most builds need to clear white maps. The Scalemancer is equally good at clearing large packs of mobs as well as killing bosses or other tough targets. Losing a few skeletons will never cripple you, as raising some more doesn't require corpses. Not only that, but summoner builds are a beginner's best friend. They allow you to observe and learn difficult fights or complex game mechanics while your minions do the heavy lifting. It's much easier to master tough boss fights when minions take care of dealing damage and your only concern is proper positioning and staying alive. My fourth suggestion is the amazing Scourge Arrow Ranger. Incredibly fast paced and with excellent clearing capabilities, this poison build is a farming and leveling beast. Firing a charged, piercing arrow will create spore pods which explode into countless projectiles that shred enemies to bits and poison them. No special aiming or targeting is required, and this works great when you're trying to learn new league's mechanics. Most of its efficiency comes from gems and passives rather than gear, making it perfect for the first days of a new league. It doesn't really need any mandatory uniques, and even its best in slow gear is usually quite cheap. Just grab any bow with decent attack speed and you're good to go. Focus your other gear on defenses and you'll cruise through story mode and the first Atlas tiers. And as any respectable farmer, it's able to run literally every map mode, and that is a huge advantage when you start going through the Atlas. You won't waste any time or currency to reroll maps and get much more drops, greatly boosting your efficiency. My final recommendation is the Archmines Saboteur, which is the more advanced version of an Arc build. If you're a more experienced player or really want to play an amazing miner build, then this would be a top pick. While Arc doesn't really need any introductions, as it's hands down the best clearing spell in the game, adding Mines into the mix brings it to a whole new level. In fact, this is probably one of the fastest leveling builds out there. Generally speaking, mine builds are known to be some of the most efficient in the game, and when using Arc this is doubly true. There's a good reason why almost all speedrunners are using mines when racing. With mines, most of your damage comes from gems themselves, so even if you rub two sticks together, you'll still end up with very solid DPS, which is excellent in a fresh league economy. The few unique items used in this build are only necessary once you're running mid-tier maps, so long after you've passed the league starter phase. By then you'll also amass tons of currency with this great farmer build, allowing you to properly pimp your character. At that point, damage wise, this will likely be the best build you've ever played, being capable of easily surpassing 10 million DPS even with basic gear. If this sounds like what you're looking for, then check out the full guide by following the link in the pinned comment and video description.
Learn anything new, Exile?
If you did, then you'll probably be happy to hear there are more videos coming up in the near future with more exciting builds to try. Make sure not to miss them by subscribing to the channel so you get notified when that happens. And while you're at it, why not like this video as well, or drop a comment down below to let me know your thoughts. Thank you all for watching and see you next time.